Welcome to G&G Success Factory. Listen, we got another installation for you here this afternoon, this evening, whenever you might be viewing this program. You know, we always try to do something that's a little bit different and a little bit exciting, and I promise you, today we're going to have something that's very, very interesting. So I'll tell you what, just hang with us for the next 28 minutes and 30 seconds, and I promise you that you're going to get something that you enjoy. All you have to do is just kind of hang with us. We'll be right back after this announcement. Don't you go anywhere. We'll be right back. Things. I'm going to talk to you. You got somebody tell me we're back. Now listen, we've got a great crew here. Absolutely great crew. Earl, Emmanuel, and our floor director over there. They're great. They're great. But I do have a special guest with us here, and that is Miss Jean Dancy Monroe. And she's come to share some things with us about something about men, about people in general, and I think that it's going to be interesting. So if I can get a little shot here of Jean. How you doing today, Jean?
Fine.
Jean, isn't she just lovely? Everybody looking in there. She just see that.
This is a wonderful way to start the show.
It's a good way to start a show. Good way to start a show. Jean, what I'd like to do is just, as we go through the show, I just want to get a sense of you.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, because you'll see a lot of shows, we call them talking heads. But I want to get who Jean is. And what we're going to do, we can just go through a few questions and things like that. And we even got a video. And let me tell you, Jean has got some good stuff. She's really got some good stuff. Are you going to read something for us later on during the show?
Yes, I can. I can read something, yes. And
then discuss stuff too?
Whatever.
Well, what is your favorite, we're coming here to talk about, basically men. Okay? Yeah, that's right.
My favorite subject.
We're here to talk about men.
My favorite subject.
So if you don't want to hear about men, turn us off right now. What are you going to tell us about men?
Oh, well, it depends on what you want to know, because I am quite knowledgeable on that subject. Don't I have a nerve telling you that?
This is a good thing. This is a good thing. This is a good thing. Because there are some things that men need to know from a woman's perspective, okay? And I hope that you'll be able to share some of that with us. But I'm going to have to ask you a question. I'm going to ask you a question here.
Go right ahead.
Is the stuff positive or negative?
Oh, it's always positive.
Always positive?
Yes, very positive.
Any particular reason why it's always positive?
It could have something to do with the fact that I'm positive.
Kind of deep there, Jean.
Well, I think that, from our heart, our mouth speaks. And if our heart is negative, what we say is also going to be negative. And I have a very positive heart. And also, I think it has to do with the fact that, unlike some women who cry and say, my uncle treated me like a dog, then my brother treated me like a dog, then my daddy treated me like a dog, and then I was married to 3 dogs, and, I'm full of fleas, and I don't have that story to tell. I mean, I've been very blessed in that. I've had nothing but the most wonderful, positive relationships with men.
Positive,
wonderful, beautiful relationships. So, quite frankly, I think that has a lot to do with what I have to say about them.
Well, listen, as you go through it, we're going to talk about Black Men Unite. And actually, I want to give you a little bit of video on Black Men Unite, okay? So if we can, let's just roll them. I'm absolutely loving that video on Black Men Unite, and we're going to get a chance to talk about that. But before we go any further, we just want to say a few things about Jean. I was looking over here in my notes, and Jean's a very interesting lady, not only because she has done so many things, but her heart is totally in her work, and you're going to get an opportunity to experience that, not just see it, but experience it, because she's going to actually come back a little later and read some poetry. Jean has done things from being a mother to a boxing promoter. Okay, that's pretty serious, okay? Sometimes they say mothers and boxing promoters are one and the same. But in this case, I think you're going to see that how she has fit into a realm that has really been dominated by men and still been able to maintain herself as a lady and still the respect for men. And I think that's quite a feat that has gone on. So you're going to get a chance to see a little bit of that. And Jean and I had an interesting conversation a little bit before our opportunity to come on here and do the show. And, one of the things that, I'd like to share with people, and I bring up and we'll get into a little later, is Jean has actually had the opportunity to negotiate with Don King. Now, you're going to swim with the sharks. Don, if you're out there, you know, it's cool, it's all good, but, you know, I want to know a little bit about that. Y'all tell me if you want to know something about that, because Gene has had a chance to swim with the sharks. So, you know, we want to hear a little bit about the Don King piece and see where we go from there, because I thought that was pretty interesting. If you could, why don't you give me a little bit about how you got into that fight game?
To boxing. Well, one night I went to a party that was given by a songwriter for Diana Ross, and a friend of mine begged, I mean literally begged me to go, and I didn't want to go. And I was, well, quite frankly, as I think about it, I was depressed over another black man whose name we won't mention. And I got there and I met Marty Monroe, who later became my husband. And he was a boxer. He was an up-and-coming boxer. He was about to sign a contract with Joe Frazier. Actually, they signed 3 months after.
I mean, Smoking Joe?
Smoking Joe Frazier.
Smoking Joe. Y'all remember Smoking Joe, right?
Yeah, Smoking Joe became his manager. But because I had been an English teacher, I wanted to see the contract, and I wanted to see if it was a good contract. I read it, and it was masquerading as a 3-year contract, but actually it was a 9-year contract. So, you know, I suggested that.
Wait, this was one of Don King's deals, huh?
This was a 9-year contract. But it really looked like a 3-year contract. To the naked eye, it looked like it was just 3 years.
Right.
So I suggested that my husband not sign it. And then there were a lot of show business people interested in managing him. Ryan O'Neal, Diana Ross, I think Barbara Streisand, people like that. And so I was helping him read through their paperwork to determine who he should sign the contract with. And as a result of that, I started to go to all of the meetings with Muhammad Ali, Don King, and people like that. And when we would leave the meetings, I would always say what I thought they should have done. And often they would do something different than what I thought. But retrospectively looking at it, he would say, well, you know, they really should have done what you said. And so it kept happening over and over and over again. So then he said, you know, you ought to be my manager. So that's how it happened. I became his manager. And
so your husband actually decided that you should do it just by watching you?
Yes.
So
I was not interested. I mean, this is not something I said, well, you know, I want to be a boxing manager. No. He asked me to become his manager, and I became his manager.
You know, you mentioned that you were an English teacher.
Yes, I was.
So an English teacher, how the English teacher in boxing, I mean...
You know, actually that worked beautifully together because of the fact that I had taught English, and I'm really good with words. I could read and comprehend contracts very quickly, and I could discern whether or not the contract was saying something that it shouldn't say.
Yeah.
So that worked in my favor, actually. So that was a good background.
After having spent some time in that, what advice would you give for people looking at contracts today?
Oh, I thought you were going to say about getting into boxing. I said, don't do it.
Oh, we'll go there, but not right now.
About contracts?
Yeah.
I think that anyone getting a contract should get an attorney or someone knowledgeable with words to look over it, particularly if they aren't knowledgeable in that area, because contracts can actually appear to say one thing and say another, and they can do it beautifully. So I wouldn't say just don't get a contract and sign it. And sometimes I've noticed, this has happened with a lot of boxers that I've noticed, people come in and they want them to sign contracts, and the boxers know that they don't really know how to read and comprehend contracts, and some of these lawyers come in and they say, well, just sign it, you know, if it's for your best interest, just sign it, you know, and the boxers sign it, and then they're miserable. But you should never do that, and you should never feel that you're going to look dumb if you say, well, I don't understand that, you know, I don't know what that's about. You should just admit it.
That's kind of a segue, like you said. You don't want to feel that you are looking dumb, because it's important that you don't look dumb. But it's better to look dumb than to be dumb.
Thank you.
Okay?
Ask the questions. What does this mean?
Just ask the questions.
Ask the questions.
So, now, you being a woman, and in the boxing, a very masculine arena, and men not wanting to look weak, especially because they're strong, it would seem that you would get maybe a lot of resistance. And if you did, you did get a lot of resistance.
I got a lot of resistance, a lot.
So how did you keep it, how did you keep your face such that you still have such a positive attitude, especially about the African-American male?
Well, first of all, I love men. And most of the men with whom I did business in boxing were black men. Not that all men aren't probably wonderful, but black ones in particular I think are wonderful. And I understood the way they felt. Sometimes they were intimidated by my knowledge, and they were intimidated by the fact that I had knowledge when it came to the contracts. And I think that, well, that's okay, you know. She was an English teacher, so if she knows that, that's okay. But then when it came to what was actually happening in the ring, I had spent 4 years in a boxing gym, so I knew what was happening in the ring, too. So and I think then once I got into saying, you know, I don't think this is the right opponent because you know, he's left-handed, and my husband shouldn't fight with a left-handed fighter, and this and that, and this hook doesn't go with this and that, and then I was, I don't know. I don't think she's.
But that boxing, just being in the ring and seeing those things, you still had a lot of respect
no,
for.
I learned.
You learned.
I mean, I learned a lot about what was happening in the ring. I actually probably knew more about what was happening inside of the ring than what was happening outside the ring. But back to the men.
But wait, before we go there, because we want to get into the men, and also I want to have a chance for you to share something that you wrote about men. But first, we're going to take a little break.
Okay.
And then after that break, we're going to have Jean Dancy Monroe share some things with us. Hey, hold on. We'll be right back after this.